Among Us is on a meteoric rise. Everybody can see it happening. It's viral. Everybody's playing it, even politicians. But it's a much more strategic game than most people may think. From the crewmate's perspective, it's just about getting the task done and making it out in one piece. But if you're the imposter, well, things get complicated. There's tons of strats you can employ to get your first win. Welcome to Chaos Gaming. Today, we are focusing in on the Among Us beginners. I want to help you guys out with some tips, some imposter tips for Among Us. So I know you're playing it for the first time and you're a crewmate 8 times in a row, but eventually you're going to hit that RNG and you're going to be the imposter and you're going to be equipped and ready with these tips. This month's giveaway is for your choice of a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. All you have to do to enter is drop a like, make sure you're subscribed, and leave a comment with your Twitter handle so we can get hold of you telling me which one you want. The winner is picked at the end of the month. Good luck. Okay, let's get the obvious ones out of the way. Make sure you're muted. I know, it's obvious. We always start these lists with the obvious picks, and let's be honest, everybody has made this mistake probably once. A lot of people play Among Us in the big Discord call, and one of the biggest mistakes you can make there is not muting yourself during the match and then saying something or making a noise that exposes you as the killer. Make sure you have your mute button hotkeyed on Discord and maybe even turn your overlays on so you can always be sure that you're muted. It sounds like a little thing, but we all know that one time that you screw up, you're never going to forgive yourself for it. Just be muted. Next is pace. Play it slow. A lot of people like to run out as imposter and go on these long killing sprees, and while that's a perfectly legitimate strategy, it's not as effective as playing the slow game, letting the crew boil over a little bit. Go around, fake your task, try to establish trust with a few of the other players before you split one of them open from behind. Then, when the meetings begin and the people are trying to figure out who the killer is, you'll have a couple people who, they may suspect you, but not everybody's going to, because you were running around with them the entire time. You had a buddy system. Play mind games. Take it slow. When it's time to ramp it up, kill the suspects. If somebody gets suspicious of you during a meeting, they have to be the next to go. One of the most terrifying things that can happen as an imposter is when somebody in the crew is getting super sus of you and you think they're figuring you out. Well, if somebody starts getting extra sus of you in the meeting, don't yell at them. Don't get super defensive. Don't start an argument. Just make it through the meeting, calm, and then the next round, take them out before they can squeal, because then their voice is gone. But on the subject of who to kill and when, always keep your defenders alive. I mentioned before, it's a good idea to play it as slow as you can as the imposter, and here's another example of that. If somebody during the meeting defends you or isn't suspicious of you at all, you need them to be alive. For example, if Red is suspicious of you, but Green is convinced you're not the killer because you were doing tasks with them, you need to kill Red and keep Green alive as long as possible. Then, when the going gets tough, just throw Green under the bus during a meeting and buy yourself another round. It's survival of the fittest, people. If somebody defends you from the mob, you have to do everything you can to keep them alive until you need to play them as a chess piece. Next up is don't use vents very often. They're nice, they're cool, they're a meme, but a lot of people seem to use vents without realizing how exposed you are. The vents are only available to the imposters, and they help you traverse the map a little quicker. But they also have a lengthy animation attached to them. If anybody sees you using the vent, they know you're a killer. It's a lot of risk and a lot of reward, but I've seen a lot of beginner players use the vents pretty liberally, and it almost always bites them in the end. If you're going to use the vent, you need to be absolutely certain nobody is around. Then, before you pop out the other side, give it a second, look around, and make sure nobody's looking at you. Let them eat each other. If a fight breaks out in the meeting and people can't agree on who the killer is, just sit back, eat some popcorn, and watch. This is one of the best moments as an imposter. When nobody is suspicious of you, but 2 or 3 of your friends are screaming at each other because they know that they're the imposter. These are those moments you should relish. Just sit back, don't say a word. Don't give yourself away, don't even risk it. Just let them eat each other up and vote each other out while you silently exterminate them in the next round. This one's important. Make sure you have a story. During the meetings, it's really easy for the crewmates to explain why they were in certain parts of the map. However, if you're the killer, you don't actually have any tasks, you're going to have to come up with something on the fly to say. Make sure you know which tasks are where so you can make up a believable story based on where you were last seen. Also, make sure your story is vague enough that people will buy it, but not start asking questions. The worst thing you could do is come up with this really specific story that people can poke holes in, but then you also don't want a story to be too vague and people to think you're making it up. Hopefully, you can keep the focus off of yourself. That's the key here. But if you start getting questioned, You need to know the map, you need to know the tasks, and you have to have a story to get yourself out of it. If you stutter or miss a step with your words, they're going to be on you. This is a fun one. Go for double kills. If you and the other imposter stick together, you can do some pretty awesome strats. For example, if you and the other imposter run into a room where there's 2 crewmates, you can each kill one of them and avoid either of you being caught. Double kills are really hard to do without coordinating with the killer first. But if you and the other killer are on the same brainwave, you should be able to get this done. Just stick with the other killer as you're running around. Then, when you come across 2 innocent crewmates, make sure you're both in killing range before you pull that trigger. Next big tip for beginners. Don't throw accusations. One of the most sus things in Among Us is when somebody starts wildly throwing accusations, because that's exactly what a killer would do. If you're the killer and you're worried about people suspecting you, don't just start blaming other people. Instead, use that story you came up with and convince them you're not the killer. Stay calm. There are plenty of ways to convince people you're innocent without bringing other players into the fold. If you're the killer and people are sus of you, try to get their trust back. Try to win it back. Don't start accusing, talking over everybody, because that is going to be a dead giveaway and you're probably going to get voted off that round. And finally, watch the progress bar. If you're faking doing a task, obviously, the progress bar will not move when you're done with it. However, a good strat for when people are watching is to only move away from that task when the progress bar moves. The bar moves whenever somebody else finishes a task. So if you go stand by a random task and then you walk away once that bar moves because somebody else in the room completed it, whoever in the room with you they're likely not going to be suspicious of you at all, unless they're really, really keen at the game. Now, there's a lot of science to faking tasks, and it's hard to do right. That's the point of this. That's what makes it so fun to be an imposter. This is probably the most convincing way you can do it. Piggyback off somebody else's tasks and their progress bar. That should keep you safe. And there you have it. Those are some secret imposter tips specifically for beginners of Among Us. It's a super fun game. It's a simple game, yet it's actually a pretty deep game. If you guys enjoyed this and you found it informative, drop a like. Make sure you subscribe with all the notifications on. If you want more Among Us tips and tricks, we can do that as well. I hope you guys have a great day. There's 2 videos on the screen. Click one of those, and I'll see you over there.